national security team over the Afghanistan policy. So I asked National Security Advisor General H.R. McMaster about the war in Afghanistan.
What we have is a number of decisions the president has made. He has said, I want to prioritize the safety and security of the American people, and he wants to destroy ISIS wherever they are. There's a tremendously successful campaign going on with Afghan forces in the lead. It's an underreported campaign in Nangarhar province of Afghanistan. The president has said that he does not want to place restrictions on the military that undermine our ability to win battles in combat. He has lifted those restrictions, and you're beginning to see the payoff of that as well. The president has also made clear that we need to see a change in behavior of those in the region, which includes those who are providing safe haven and support bases for the Taliban, Haqqani Network, and others. This is Pakistan in particular that we want to really see a change and a reduction of their support for these groups. I mean, this is, of course, a very paradoxical situation, right, where Pakistan is taking great losses. They fought very hard against these groups, but they've done so really only selectively. And he's also said others have to share the burden.
There have been some hard hits in Kabul. Do you have confidence yourself in General Nicholson, the combatant commander in Afghanistan?
Of course, I've known him for many years. I can't imagine a more capable commander on any mission.
Does Secretary Mattis, does the president?
Absolutely.
All right. Does the president have some concern with minerals and China's exploitation of them, where they're taking the wealth of the country even as we pay in the blood?
Right, right. So here, this is something that I think the president has focused all of us on, is that if the United States is going to invest blood and treasure on behalf of partners, allies, then we ought to expect favorable treatment, or at least equal treatment, with competitors economically. And this is not to extract anything, but this is just to ensure that if we are helping a country, if we are engaged with partners from a security perspective, to solidify that relationship, we ought to have a mutually beneficial economic relationship as well.
You will recall that President Obama froze sort of in his Afghanistan review at the beginning of his administration. President Trump doesn't want to compare unfavorably with that. When is a decision coming on the strategery, to use a quote from your old boss, George W. Bush, on what we're going to do in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Well, the president's already made some important decisions on Afghanistan. He said, listen, we're
Troop
not
levels, though.
But we're not going to talk tactics anymore, right? Everything before was, troop levels and very specific details, announcing to the enemy years in advance exactly the number of troops you're going to have, exactly what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And so the president has said that is not the way to fight a war. It never has been. This is an invention of recent years.
So don't look for a billboard. Don't look for an announcement of what we're going to be doing there.
No.
Because don't you need to sell it to the American people?
No, I think there are two things that the American people ought to understand and that we all have to talk about. The first is, what is at stake, right? What are the stakes in Afghanistan? And the second is, what is the strategy that secures an outcome consistent with the vital interests of the American people and an outcome that is worthy of the sacrifices that our servicemen and women are making, and the tremendous efforts, right, and the risks that they take. And so that's the answer that you'll hear. That's the answer you've heard in pieces, and what we're endeavoring to do, pull this all together in a regional strategy that makes sense, right? So our Secretary of State has laid a very strong foundation for this. What we've had in Afghanistan for years is a disconnected strategy. What we're doing militarily was disconnected from what we're trying to achieve politically. So you say to the Taliban, hey, let's see what we can do to accommodate some of your concerns so we can end the violence. And by the way, we're leaving. I mean, how does that work? And how does it work when your enemy believes that they are ascendant militarily if you're trying to negotiate some kind of an agreement? It doesn't work. How does it work that you're not connecting what you're doing inside of Afghanistan to what you want to achieve regionally, and in particular to engage other countries in the region to play a more productive role or a less destructive role in some cases?
General, I've talked to Secretary Rumsfeld often, former President Bush. Vice President Cheney about their years in the White House and the failure to over-communicate with the American people about what the hell we were doing and where we were going. Is that going to be a problem in Team Trump as well on what you just said, but elaborated by Secretary Mattis, by the President, by you? I very much appreciate you're doing this because that's part of the solution, but is that going to be a problem again going forward? The inability of the public to understand what the heck we're going to and for?
Yeah, I think the American public understand, you know, what the stakes are there. I mean, obviously it's etched in so many of our memories that the mass murder attacks against our nation on September 11th, 2001 originated right, from Afghanistan, from a Taliban regime that gave safe haven and support bases to al-Qaeda. And so there's a recognition that effort, our efforts, really to enable Afghan forces. I mean, Americans don't realize the Afghan army suffered 6,700 soldiers killed in action last year. So who's doing that? Who's doing the bulk of the fighting? The Afghans are. The question the president has asked us is, what more can we do to enable them? He doesn't want to take the war over. The Afghans are fighting a war for their country. And so what more can we and others do? What burdens, responsibilities can the United States and allies and partners share such that the Afghan government, its security forces, can succeed against this enemy of all civilization?
When we return, I asked General McMaster about Russia and the president's understanding of Russia, about the arrival of General John Kelly as White House Chief of Staff, and about a very famous book on how military men and political officials owe the president candor and their best advice, a book H.R. McMaster